Hello, and Kings of War week is upon us. This week, we're looking at all the different myriad of armies that are in Kings of War and exploring how the game plays. But one of the coolest things is all the stuff we're giving away. We have a massive grand prize of two 2,000 point armies, one undead and one you get to choose yourself. If you want to be in with a chance of winning, comment on this video here on YouTube or over on beastsofwar.com. If you do both, that gets you 2 entries. If you write a blog post and send the link to us at community@beastsofwar.com, that gets you another 10 entries. We're also giving away spot prizes of individual army deals, and the way we're going to work that is if you create a forum post or you participate in a forum post somewhere out on the interweb and we find out about it, we're going to be picking people at random and you're going to win an army. So, enjoy Kings of War week, because we most certainly will. Hey guys, Abyssal Dwarfs.
Yes.
Right. Now, Abyssal Dwarfs are dwarfs from the Abyss.
You're not far off wrong there, actually. They're not from the Abyss, they live near the Abyss.
Okay, so post your comments below.
That's that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So tell me about the Abyssal Dwarfs then, right? I've heard a great story.
Yeah.
And you can confirm whether it's true
Yep.
or not. But an Abyssal Dwarf
Yep.
is a dwarf that is like killed another dwarf.
Yeah.
And then his soul has been claimed by the Abyss.
Basically, yeah. So, I mean, so dwarves normally, they have these kind of really strong moral codes and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, and the fact that they hate everybody else, they really do have to stick together.
Absolutely. So when a dwarf, crosses the line and kills another dwarf, that is it. Like you say, his soul is claimed by the Abyss. And he goes pretty gribbly and evil. That's kind of, and I mean, philosophers could debate whether it's an actual thing of the abyssal ones calling to him, or is it that he believes that's what's happening, so he chooses to turn evil. But that's a little bit deep for right now. So let's just say he turns evil.
Yeah.
And he at that point has 2 ways he can go. Mm-hmm. So either he stays in the dwarven hold, and he seeks out like-minded dwarves, keeping it a little bit on the down low, and you get these little secret cults of dwarves. How cool is that? Little cults of like fallen, twisted dwarves who, will
meet together quietly in the
absolutely,
caverns by candlelight.
Because you can imagine, a dwarven stronghold is going to be massive. There's going to be whole sections of mine workings, for example, where they've decided there's nothing more useful down there, so they're just going to leave it. And suddenly you start getting these little
cults and
groups,
stuff.
Yeah, and they might start living down there and start, bringing more people in, bringing slaves in, whatever.
And this will be where, because I'd heard kind of passing reference to holds just disappearing.
Absolutely.
And, them no longer hearing from them. So it could have been a cult from
It's
within.
like going rotten from within. Yeah, exactly. And then suddenly, boom,
so cool.
either a dwarf walks in on them and it all goes off, or they decide to overthrow the hold and take it over. So that's option 1, which I think is an amazing idea.
I love that.
Yeah. Option 2, they'll go and live in one of the big abyssal dwarven cities on the edge of the Abyss.
Yeah.
So the Abyss, massive crack in the ground, huge furnace of evil.
Yeah.
Living next to it,
it's going to rub off on you.
Absolutely, you've got to have a particular mindset, I think, to even live there. And before you know it, you're wearing spiky armour, you've got a silly hat on, and the rest is history. So, as you can imagine, Abyssal Dwarves, not great news.
Early in this series of videos, I think it was in episode 4, we were talking about the dwarves, and I was talking about doing a dwarven, almost like a dwarven gaming table, which was a giant part of the hold, where the dwarves were fighting off an invader of undead. Now I'm kind of thinking fighting off a cult from within.
Because you can have loads of them. Like you can have rules whereby certain dwarf units are traitors.
Yes.
So they've infiltrated back into the regular ranks, and halfway through the game they'll just
don't
cast back the cloaks, or whatever it might be, and
you could have both armies, the Abyssal Dwarves and the other dwarves, and have them based in diorama to match the hold. Oh man,
that's a project, isn't it?
That is a project.
We should do that somehow. That should. Oh, I like it a lot.
And let's talk a little bit about what they get. So they get black souls, which are the standard troop of the Abyssals. Is that correct?
Yeah. So they're very much your basic kind of unit. You know, they've got their axes and their blades and shields, heavy armor. So they're, I mean, a dwarf is a dwarf, whatever the case. They're still going to like their short range, heavy armor type way of life.
You get decimators, which are the shooty guys.
Yeah, now decimators. One of the big things with Abyssal Dwarves is they've experimented a lot with technology that the dwarves necessarily wouldn't stake their claim on. So they've got all sorts of crazy contraptions and things, and they start doing things like binding abyssal demons into weapons, which how wise that is, I don't know.
Nasty. Yeah.
And so but in this case they've got like kind of giant rifles that fire huge blasts of magically upgraded shot into the enemy and stuff.
And we have a Mortal Guard, Abyssal Berserkers, Slave Orcs.
Yeah, so the Immortal Guard, the bodyguard of their king, so they're granted immortality, which is no bad thing. I'd go for that. Except, of course, that's the price of your eternal soul.
Yeah.
But it means that in the game they're scared of nothing.
Yes.
And the slave orcs, I mean, one of the big things of these abyssal dwarven cities is they are just full of slaves.
Yeah.
And they will enslave any race. So they enslave elves because they're a laugh to torture and poke around with, because they've still got the ancient grudge against the elves. They don't like the elves.
Yeah.
So the chance to roast them over a pit or whatever they're down with. Humans they'll use as servants. Goblins they'll use whatever else. Orcs they put on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Because that's what orcs are made for, really.
There are some interesting.
Here's where it gets esoteric.
So, yeah, because you get abyssal half-breeds, right, which are they're kind of like centaur type things, aren't they?
Yeah, they can be very different things. One type of half-breed. The idea of half-breeds is that the ironcasters, who are like their kind of crazy mad scientists, will just get bits of different animals and go, and see if it works.
Wow.
And kind of do all sorts of genetic, like some Island Dr. Moreau type crazy experimentation. And one of the things they've done is they've kind of blended dwarven warriors into kind of large four-legged creatures. And
but
so
there's nothing stopping you from blending them into giant spider bodies.
Exactly.
Or...
Yeah, spider dwarves or spider orcs. Do what you like. Absolutely.
Yeah, it could be anything at all. It's just as long as it's a kind of a mashup.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a total genetic mashup. You've got one of the characters, Basusu the Vile, is he's like the half-breed hero, they call him, and he's meant to be like made of about 3 dozen different types of animal, and he's like this weird gargoyle type creature.
Cool.
So yeah, there's all that genetic experimentation and stuff,
You get lesser obsidian golems.
These models, they've just come out over summer. They are absolutely mint. They're out. They're not out yet. They've been released to Kickstarter backers now.
Yeah.
Coming out, I think, later in the year or early next year to regulate everyone. But they're these big kind of rock monster things.
Yeah.
And they're just so cool. We had them here at the Grumpy Old Wargamers day, and the guy who was on the end, whose name I've forgotten, I'm so sorry, he was painting them for us. He was painting a few of them.
Yeah.
Big tall chappy who joined us in with the zombie game as well.
That
one.
Yeah,
yes.
that one. Yeah. But those rock monsters, or those golems, we had talked in an earlier video about the elementals. There's your earth elementals there.
Yeah, you could totally use those, couldn't you? Yeah, definitely.
And they would, we'd talked about using them actually with the dwarves as kind of earth elementals. Yeah. Here they are, sitting in among the Abyssal Dwarfs.
Exactly.
That's absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
They have the Katsuchin rocket launcher. I think I pronounced that right.
Bless you.
Katsuchin, there.
It's basically like a big sort of rocket battery. So, I mean, the idea is it's one of those things like where they'll just fling rockets into the enemy. And again, they're probably full of evil magic and stuff at the same time. It's not particularly pleasant.
And they have things like the Dragon Fire Team, the Anchor Heavy Mortar, and the Grog Mortar.
Yeah, it's all just different artillery pieces, basically, that can be used in different ways.
Into some of their kind of heroes and things like that, you have Overmasters, Ironcasters. Like, what's dwarven magic or Abyssal dwarven magic like?
So the main thing with the Ironcasters is they've got the ability to heal war machines.
Yeah.
So they're literally on the battlefield, like knitting the iron back together after it's been kind of damaged and whatever, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And other than that, they're just kind of flinging bolts of abyssal magic towards their enemies. Now, in the basic game here, they've got the zap rule, which just lets you fire magic. In the Basilean Legacy, there's a set of expanded magic rules, so you can use them to fire fireballs or lightning bolts, whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically their magic is all fueled by the abyss. That's the main thing behind it.
Well, They have something called the Greater Obsidian Golem.
Yep.
Is that a bigger version of it?
So your lesser obsidian golem is like your large cavalry version, so ogre size.
Yeah.
That's more your giant sized one. So a giant rock monster.
Fantastic. 'Cause that was going to be one of my questions: is do they have a giant?
Yeah.
Because they have another thing called
That's the fellow I was talking about. That's
Basusu
the
the Vile.
half-breed hero who's like made of all sorts of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Lord of the Gargoyles, they call him. And yeah, he's a lovely model. He came out recently as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's like this really nasty looking king of the gargoyles.
Well, when you had mentioned that these guys were experimenting with putting kind of like demonic forces into their weapons and stuff like that, I was thinking, oh, please let them have a giant. Please let them have a giant. Please let them have a giant, because I wanted to get in some way something like an ultra forged greater demon.
Yeah, you totally could,
basically the Abyssal Dwarfs have a demon, and if we find maybe some way of having the demon even in charge of the army. If it was going to do that, obviously a demon would have wings and stuff. Is my best way to ally them with an army that would have a monstrous monster with wings and things like that?
Well, yeah, what you could do is the Forces of the Abyss, which we'll come to in a bit, have got a character which is a greater demonic type creature, which you can give various upgrades. Give it the ability to fly, so it can have wings, or the ability to breathe fire.
So we have a way of doing it.
There we go, and you can bring it in, and it can be your army leader.
As a centerpiece to an Abyssal Dwarf army, that they've summoned a demon, especially if you could have a metal thing around its neck.
Oh, like they've enslaved
chains coming down to Abyssal Dwarfs all around the base, trying to hold them in place.
Yeah.
And one of the chains broken, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you could just see it as a centerpiece of something that would just be crazy, crazy.
And you missed out the great winged half-breed. So you can put your Ironcast on a great winged half-breed. Go crazy. It could be half pig, half horse, half monkey. You know, that's more halves than there actually are. But that's the magic. That's where the magic comes in. You know?
That's why that's a lot of halves.
Yeah.
So it could be pretty much anything. You could go down to your local toy store, look at some of them. Do you know every toy store I go into these days has I'm trying to think of the Paco models of animals.
Right. Yeah.
And you've got cows and all of this stuff in there.
That plus hacksaw.
Hacksaw, hobby glue,
big
put it
like
all
insect
together,
wings.
paint the whole thing. Oh, you could put together the most monstrous thing.
Something that your opponent looks at it and goes, oh.
Stick an Ironcaster standing on the back of it.
Yep. Hey guys, made this.
Oh, nasty.
You are wrong and you are.
So the Abyssal Dwarves, from a kind of a fluff perspective, are they likely to ally with other forces and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, because their big thing is they're trying to kind of yoke the Abyss to their will. They're trying to kind of bring about the raising of the demons and things. So anything that will help them do that, they would totally do it. So they would probably bring ogres in if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But I mean, the main way they're going to do it is by enslaving them.
Yeah.
So they're going to get slave ogres, slave humans, whatever it might be. They're going to enslave it, get it to work for them, or kind of use dark magic to take over their minds, or there's always a way for the Abyssal Dwarves to get involved with just about anything.
Fantastic. Right, guys, over to you. What do you think of the Abyssal Dwarves? Have you any ideas of how you would field them, what you would do with them? Would you ally them with something? For me, it's an opportunity to get a big-ass demon. I'm really now starting to settle in on this idea of a project of doing a big gaming table that's a hold, inside of a hold, there'd be the pillars and stuff like that.
Yep.
Having my dwarves on one side, my Abyssal Dwarves on the other with a demon.
Could you have multiple levels, like a bridge going across?
Oh, yeah. The demon that they've summoned up. You could have the bridge as a kind of the choke point of the entire battle.
Couldn't you? Yeah.
Or maybe a couple of bridges. Oh, man.
This should happen.
I'm just looking at it from the point of view of from a modeling perspective.
Yeah.
There's just so much scope here.
Really is.
I love the idea of introducing, some special rules where some of the guys that I have on my side, you maybe have to take a roll on.
Maybe they're not necessarily on the right side. Yeah.
Next thing they turn and you put down.
Or maybe like you got your Abyssal, I've got my regular dwarves, and before the game you write down 2 units to be traitors or something, and you choose the moment to spring them. Yeah,
that would be nasty.
That'd be amazing.
So, is it inspiring you? If it is, post your comments below because we would love to hear them. Other than that, we will see you in the next video.